Hello folks, my name's Ed Overstreet and I am the hang on a minute, I'll tell you who I am. I run the Night Sky Imaging channel on YouTube, and where my main objective is to go live, and so I do some processing videos and review precious few pieces of equipment because I'm not qualified to, but I can tell you how they work for me. And but I do like to image, and when I do, I just decide to stream it. And if you're watching this on Facebook, unfortunately Facebook does a poor job of compressing their video, so there is no clarity or detail, no matter how large you can make the video screen. But it is what it is, and if you go to the Night Sky Imaging channel, and I will add a link to that YouTube channel on Facebook when I'm finished, you can see the sun in HD, and it has a lot more clarity to it. So at any rate, we're going to head outside now, and before we do, I'm going to show you the telescope that I'm going to be using. It is an Astrotech 65 EDQ. Not that that's really important for people who just want to see the sun, but for the astronomers out there, I have a moonlight focuser and extender, and then a quark chromosphere, followed by an ASI 174 camera by ZWO, and then on top is the Solar Scout. The Scout, both of them have to have tilt adapters to adjust the sensor to the focal plane because of the Newton rings that I will have in both of these kits. That's pretty common with the Daystar quark chromosphere, and this Scout has it horribly. And you can flat it out, and that's what I do. I take flats either at the beginning or the conclusion of my imaging run, and the rings disappear, but they're still there, and I try to mitigate them as best I can with these tilt adapters. There's one here and one here. ZWO makes those tilt adapters. This is the it's right before the camera. I understand you can't see my pointer on this picture, but the camera and then the tilt adapter on both of these. And so at any rate, if you are a imager of the night sky or the day sky, you'll know what all this means. That blue box underneath, riding on the saddle, is a Pegasus Ultimate Power Box, and it's the hub for my data and my power. So with that being said, let's go outside, and we will take a look at the sun. And there she blows. I'm going to move some boxes that you can't see, but they are part of my streaming software, and they get in my way, so I need to get rid of them. This is the spot that I'm particularly interested in, and I have some focusing issues going on right now, so I brought up the moonlight focuser, and when I'm using the scope, the larger of the two scopes that you just saw, I have a moonlight focuser attached, and so I can control that by way of Wi-Fi, and that's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, the Solar Scout does not have the ability to attach a electronic focuser. Not that I would, but it has a very good helical focuser, and normally when I get that right, it stays focused. It's a pretty cool little solar telescope. I use a program called SharpCap, and this is the acquisition software. It allows me to acquire either JPEGs, TIFF files, or video files. And the formats that I can use are over here, or I can do AVI or SER files. I can change the capture area, and right now I'm using the entire capture area of the sensor, but I can lower the region of interest to, let's say, 640 by 480 and just kind of zoom in on a part of the sun. And when you do that, let's say we just want to see this, and wait a minute, let me move it over a little bit. When you do that, the advantage is that you have a much smaller picture to save, and as a result your frame rate speeds up because you're not saving a lot of pixels. So there is an advantage to using a small region of interest. I will typically try to keep my gain as low as possible and still manage to keep my frame rate up as much as possible, or down as much as possible. I mean up as much as possible. I'm losing my mind. I want to take down here right now I'm taking 70 frames per second, and I can already tell you I'm not thinking straight this morning, so too much coffee. But at 70 frames per second, I can do okay with the sun and in inadequate seeing conditions. The exposure is 8 milliseconds, which is lightning fast, so I'm a little confused as to why I'm not getting 120, 130 frames per second. But the only thing I can think of, and a friend of mine at Roper Mountain Astronomy and I were exchanging ideas about that late last night when we were imaging Jupiter, and he said that a real thin layer of clouds that are between us and the sun can affect seeing and cause you to have require more exposure, and that would reduce your frame rate. So at any rate, I want to set this on maximum. We're not doing a meridian flip. Turbo is high speed is on. So again, we're back up at 123 frames a second. I know why, because I had this set at I had it set at 120. Anyway, we're at 123 frames a second, so all is well. I am going to go back though, and I want a larger picture. I want the full region, because before we get started on my goal today, I'm going to take a trip around the sun, and let's look at the whole look at this whole ball of fire, and move some things still around, and see if we're going to go over to the other side here, and then we're going to go this way. Now I'm going to stop every now and then, and I'm going to raise the exposure up a lot, and the reason I'm doing this is I am interested in seeing if there's any prominences. So here we go. Okay, there's a couple up here. They're actually all along the rim, but this particular quark chromosphere isn't able to define any better than this right now. So we're going to go back to about 13 milliseconds. Okay, let's go on down. Let's see if there's anything else. You notice that some of these spots aren't moving when I scroll down, and that's because they're dust. They're not anything related to the sun. Here's one here. It's just dirt that's on the optical train. Okay, let's move the sun over a little bit, and let's look at the rim again. for some sun proms. And in order to do that, let's raise the exposure back up to, okay, now we have a much more defined prom down here towards the bottom, but it isn't worth imaging, and it may not stay there long. So let's further down. Okay, and now when you're imaging at 72 frames per second, you're taking a lot of different frames, and that's what you're seeing. And so you can't see any movement, but there's a lot of swirling going on the sun's surface. It is not fixed, as this image seems to indicate. And the only way that you can see this movement is to take a series of pictures of the sun over 2 or 3 hour period, zeroed in on the same target, and then you stack those and put those into a movie, a time-lapse movie, and then you can see what is happening on the moon in kind of a time-lapse format. It's faster than what is really happening, but you can see the movement, the swirling, and the flares popping off of the sun, and particularly the sun's surface. The sun's rim, which is where the prominences are the most fun to watch. They're all over the sun, but when they sprout off the rim of the sun into the dark, then you can catch some pretty cool looking effects, looping magnetic fields, bringing them back, and they shoot up 200, 300, 400,000 miles in the air, and then the sun's gravity and magnetism pulls them back. It's a pretty remarkable thing. Okay, now we want to go, let's see, let's bring this over. We need to go down, up a little bit more, and let's bring this over here, and let's see if we have any proms going on here. Oh, here's our proms. They're going to be over here. I wish there was some activity on the sun over here, because then I would image for the activity and bring the proms out in post-processing. That's not the most exciting set of proms going on, but at least it would be a focal point of a time lapse that would add some interest. Okay, let's go back down to 14 milliseconds and continue. We want to go north now. No, we don't. We still want to go south. I get dyslexic. We want to move the sun over to let's come back here a minute. I thought I was pretty positive what I wanted to image, and this is kind of interest, and that's kind of interest. Let's see where the proms are. They ought to be real close to the center of this. Yeah, there they are. Nah, I'm not going to fool with those. I'll go back to my spot if there's nothing else to. Okay, let's try wrong way. And it just doesn't look like there's really anything else. These, oh, there's some filaments there. Well, a couple things going on here. Maybe I need to think about my framing again. Why don't we put the brakes on about right here? Nope, I don't want to go that way. Let's go over here. No, that ain't gonna work. Okay, let's set about right there. And I'm gonna take this hand controller and I'm gonna point this corner right at this spot and kind of keep it centered. All right, let's go back to focus and let's see if we can't improve our focus somewhat. And I'm going to move out 10 steps, and that didn't seem to make a difference of any consequence. I'm going to come back 10 steps and rack it in, and I'm going to, oh, here we go. This is a little better. I was just headed in the wrong direction. That was too far. So let's go back one step at a time. I think for right now, we're in pretty good shape. Okay, let's move my crosshairs on top of this, because I'm going to continue to center on that. And let's go up to capture, start capture. And what I want to do is I want to take 500 frames. I want to take 200 of them. Now I want to take 300 of them. So I want 300 AVI files in my time lapse. I want 20 seconds between time lapses so that I can move my mount back to its center. I have to sit here and babysit it for this 3-hour period. And let's go ahead and just move my crosshairs rather than move my mount. This target name is going to be the sun, and let's start. Actually, we're going to call this sun. Well, let's leave it at sun, and we'll start. Down here you can see we're capturing at the rate of 86, 88 frames per second, and we already did the first one, and we're counting down the interval. It's 10 seconds, 9 up here, and then when it gets to clocks down, you'll start another capture, and you'll see that here. Okay, it's now capturing the second 500. Unlike planetary, I don't need 10,000 frames in an AVI file for good data. For a good time lapse, this works fine. Let's see, I need to go west, I think. I'm capturing, so I don't want to move them out just yet. Okay, I want to go west a little bit and north a little bit. And I'm going to bring my focuser back up because I'm going to have to fool with the focuser the rest of the day, refining things. The one thing that I don't want to do, and I'll show you here real quick, I'm actually mistakenly too hot. I'm going to lower the exposure just a little bit. There you go. I want this histogram to fall about 75%. I don't want to clip any of this data. And I was clipping these real bright spots out of here. So that first 2 or 3 videos I'll have to trash because the exposure is too bright. Okay, I'm going to have to now move south a little bit and east, and now we're going to move north. Look at the scenes messing me up here to get it back in the crosshairs. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're capturing. And let's try yeah, let's sharpen things up a little bit, I think. Alright, we're back to capturing. I need to move west a little bit now. I've lost my feed. That's all internet and Wi-Fi. Let me see where my where's this coming from? Alright. Oh, I don't want Microsoft News. I hate Windows. Alright, let's take our hand controller and let's move it east. We're going to cancel this. We're having internet problems, so let me go back to we have a so-so signal. We may have a very poor day before it's all over with. Okay, let's try. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go to my splash top, and I'm going to reopen and see if I get a better stream. Splashtop is the software that I use for connecting remote computers to my main desktop. And I'll take 1,000 frames real quick here. Huh, that was 500. This is nuts. I have a lot of problems with remote imaging, but one of them that I rarely ever have is internet. Wi-Fi connectivity. I'm going to sign off, go outside, and reboot the router, and move my antennas outside and see if I can't get a better signal and get back here and run this time lapse. And because I would bore you to death if you were around here doing this, I'm going to go ahead and say good afternoon or good morning to the rest of everybody out there, and whatever time it is. Make sure that you find somebody today that you can say something good about, and I will see you back online when we're streaming again, perhaps tonight when we go back and look at Jupiter and Saturn.